great good morning, everyone. It is a beautiful Thursday, February 12, year of our Lord, 2026. My Cordaro Jewelers watch, your Valentine's headquarters, tells me it's 9/11 and change. This is the Bob Cordaro Show. I am he, broadcasting today from the United States of America, and I can prove it because it's amazing. It's also a place for the brave, like the veterans we've lost this year and last, but salute today, thanks to our man John Basiliga and his great Basiliga Hospitality Group. Like John Franek, Upper Lehigh, Thomas Serdowski, Hanover Township, Bob Kraft, Scranton, Edward Walsh, Notch section of Scranton, Andrew Vaquera, Dunmore and Scranton, and David Bardo of Benton, the United States of America. The country where for the first time in human history, freedom was declared to be an unalienable right granted to each individual by God. It was not something that could be parceled out to groups. It was not something that could be controlled by government or government officials. Because our amazing founding fathers understood that government should not be, could not be, would not be our parent, our guide, our direction, our salvation. None of those things. So they made a great constitution which ensures and codifies freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of association, economic freedom, and freedom of the press. They also specifically limited what the government could do, unparalleled in history. Now, armed with these freedoms and the limitations on government, a ragtag bunch of immigrants, rejects, and their progeny created the richest, most powerful, most culturally diverse and accepting nation ever to grace our planet Earth. America, the only place specifically invented and designed so that every American can live their life in the manner they choose, unlimited by their background, upbringing, race, color, or creed, unhindered by the government or those who would use government to control others for their own comfort, benefit, or power. This Bob Cordaro Show, well, it will always be convincingly conservative, lovingly logical, proudly and passionately patriotic, and reliably right. And so, we gavel to order this meeting of the Club for Common Sense. We call it that because we are totally committed to common sense. And the fact that we are will provide a sanctuary of sanity amidst insanity by an entire political party's leadership and the entire establishment, and then the fools that follow them. You just need it. You just need it. So, this hour brought to you by our girl, Tina Morocco. She's Global Sales Advisor, Premier Sotheby's International in Naples, Florida. Anywhere in Southwest Florida, well, Tina's who you talk to. MoroccoTina@gmail.com. You look up Tina Morocco, MURACCO.com. You'll find her. So, I had to play. It was the end of the football season. And there's so much great Jason Whitlock. And he takes tough stands. But I wanted to give you a little montage of him to open the program today because he's just one of the clearest thinking people there are. And because of his background with ESPN, he takes on the sports orthodoxy and the disease of cultural rot that's attacking sports. Because in his view, and I think in most people's view, sports, instead of becoming a celebratory part of an incredible culture has become part of tearing it down. The disgusting Roger Goodell is Exhibit A. So we're happy to have Jason Whitlock. We'll play him. I mean, I like him. He's just really sharp. Now, somebody texting in, how's the Dow doing today? Well, it didn't open yet. Wonder if we can apologize to Epstein survivors for the DOJ's incompetence or not. Here, I was talking to my executive producer, Mr. Paul, and I've got to tell you, the only thing that bothers me at this point about the Epstein scandal is that the only thing that matters to me, the victims have received their money, I think pretty much. You've got to say two things. How did this happen? There are rumors, there are stories, there is proof that there are incredibly powerful people who are involved in pedophilia in this country. Epstein, just one of them. He was part of the disease. And if you see, excuse me, the names like Bill Gates and Summers from the president of Harvard, you see the names and you've got to say, this is epidemic. But the church is. I just heard an ad, not on this station, but what I was listening to. They're going after the Mormon church for sexual predation. And I just think about it and I go, oh, they'd completely dismissed what was called Pizzagate, but no, it's not dismissible. So you look at it and see that's what bothers me. So how deep this goes is frightening. Think of this. An American presidential administration let 300,000 children get lost. They didn't know where they were going. They didn't know where they were sent to. And tens of thousands of them were put into child slavery and child sex rings. So you say to yourself, now this was done on purpose. They set up an 800 line, and the Biden administration, the sickening Biden administration, over 61,000 children or others called that hotline to report predation of whatever type. There was nobody answering the phone. I don't understand it. I really don't understand it. And it happened. It's happening now. They're trying to unwind it. You actually have paid by billionaire protesters literally putting their lives on the line, disrupting law enforcement operations that are taking pedophiles, rapists, and murderers off the streets, who, by the way, happen to be here illegally. These things are inexplicable. I don't even know how did we get here? The one component of Epstein that I don't think has been disclosed, and the rest of it is all just anti-Trump I mean, they're still lying that Trump was involved. Blah, blah, blah. All right. You're liars. You're fools. You're a disgrace. And you obviously can't think or reason because of your hatred. But that aside, the one thing that has not happened, I want to know where Jeffrey Epstein and how he accumulated over $500 million in wealth. Nobody knows anything, any stocks or investments that he traded. He just had money. I'm not understanding it. One of the Trump haters, the DOJ didn't charge or indict anybody in these files. Let me go back. All right, I've got to take a break. I want to tell you what I know happened here. And it deals with overpromising, which forced an underdeliverance. We'll take a break. We'll be back. It's the Bob Cordaro Show. The Crickets. This date, 1958, and that is Buddy Holly's voice. They released their hit, Maybe Baby, February 12, 1958, and of course, 1809, the great Abraham Lincoln, President of the United States, born in a log cabin in Hardin, which is now LaRue County, Kentucky, of course, moved to Illinois, and the rest is history, isn't it? Somebody takes an LTS, Bob. They sent over 300 children to one apartment address in Houston, Texas. That's what they did. It's insane. Somebody takes in, what is your all's problem with mixed ethnics, especially in entertainment and sports? I don't even know. I have no clue what you're talking about. The listener continues, I don't understand why the Republican Party has such a fixation on this. Nobody cares. See, you've got certain triggers. People got to check themselves. You've got certain triggers. And when you hear something, you immediately jump to a conclusion. It might just be a word or an inflection. Nobody cared that Bad Bunny was Puerto Rican. Nobody. Did anybody care when Michael Jackson did the Super Bowl halftime? So see, again, it just blows up everything. Nobody cared. Janet Jackson. Nobody cared. Whitney Houston, the most stirring rendition of the national anthem. Nobody cared. So you don't know what you're talking about. But you got triggered by something, and you just run off to your corner. I don't get it. I don't get that lack of thinking. I really don't understand that. It just doesn't make any sense to me what you're saying and how you get there. Nobody cares about the race or ethnicity of the performer. This guy, Bad Bunny, is a vile anti-American. I've told you the lyrics to his songs, I can't even read them on the air. I don't know what you're talking about. I just don't get it. So I don't know. You really have to check yourself. You're not thinking. We just had a news story on this show, to start this show, about the IRS sharing information with ICE. Oh, my God. Oh, it's so scary and horrible. About illegal aliens. Wow. Let me get back to the original subject. Pam Bondi came in. She was Attorney General of Florida. So, okay. On the surface, that's good enough qualifications. But she's coming into an incredibly hostile environment at the Justice Department. These are establishment and leftist and Democrat freaks at every level of the Department of Justice. Now, the Trump gang had not seen, well, what's in these Epstein files. They hadn't seen it. But Trump had been driving the narrative that it was going to be devastating and that there were lists, and then Pam Bondi repeated it. Then when they actually got access, full access, because they didn't get it for the first few months. Because if you remember, they had a bunch of conservative, whatever, influencers, talk show hosts, whatever, go down to the White House. And they handed out these binders and said, this is stage one. They figured it was there. They'd been told it was there, that there's this clear, concise Epstein file. Well, when they dug into it, there wasn't. There was a bunch of what they call 302s, which is they talk to people. And people just say what they think, what's in their self-interest. They don't say the truth. They're not tested with cross-examination. So what we know and what was going to convict Epstein and what did convict Ghislaine Maxwell was all they had. They should have just admitted, hey, there's not the stuff here we thought there was. And President Trump got way out ahead of his skis. And that's what happened. And beyond that, it's all conspiracy bullspit. It truly is. So I don't know what you're talking about. Somebody says, my man, you've been screaming about the halftime show since you've been back on the air. I'm sure you're getting multiple people saying the same thing. Your counterpart in the afternoon is Rob O'Donnell. At least he sounds like a sensible Republican. You're just bat spit crazy. How? In what regard? That this was not, what was it? Are you saying that the performance was culturally enriching? Are you saying that Bad Bunny is great for the culture? It's good for children to listen to? Talking about his penis? Talking about sexual acts in the process? That's his song. That's his stick. See, you just don't care. I don't get it. Unfortunately, you just don't care. And anything that goes contrary to your defense of the Democrats, like 300,000 children led into this country unaccompanied, not knowing where they're going and not vetting where they're headed. You just ignore it. We'll take a break and be back. I told him, I said, Senator McCormick, you got to have a theme song. Well, here's what they started with. Not bad, only in America. And that tells us Senator Dave McCormick is in the house. How are you, Senator?
Hey, how are you, Bob?
So now, do you like your theme song?
I like my theme song.
I said he's got to have one. We got to give him one.
All right. Well, I'm going to come back with some additional proposals, you know.
Oh, no,
Depends
you
what
can
kind of
switch it.
mood I'm in.
You can switch it every time if you'd like.
All right. All right.
Well, the House, by one vote, as their Republican majority becomes more and more precarious, has passed the SAVE Act, the Save America Act.
Yeah.
And first, Dave McCormick, I'm going to ask you to tell the listeners, what is the SAVE Act? And then tell us why you're for it, why you support it.
Yeah, it is, I think, one of the most important things we could do right now, the Save America Act. And I'm going to give a speech on the floor of the Senate later today where I'm going to try to get more of my colleagues to support it. But essentially, it does two things that are most important. It requires someone to demonstrate that they're an American citizen to be able to register to vote. The law requires that only American citizens, not non-citizens, can vote. So you have to be an American citizen. But there's no requirement to show that you're an American citizen to register in 19 states. So number one, show you're American citizen. Number two, it requires you to show an ID when you go to vote. And you know, this is people say, "Oh my God, this is going to be disruptive, extreme." Are you kidding me? You got to show an ID to buy a beer. You got to show an ID to give blood. You got to show an ID to get on the airplane. You got to show an ID to get married. And here we've got people saying that's too extreme a measure. So that's the most important thing, and this will avoid non-citizens, illegal immigrants voting, which is against the law. The second thing it does, it requires states to clean their rolls, their voting rolls, to make sure that all the people on them are registered and have demonstrated that they're American citizens.
And alive.
And it has and alive, right? Exactly. And it has enforcement mechanisms that if election officials don't do that, they're held accountable. It is the most basic common sense thing. If you do a national poll on this, 91% of Republicans and 71% of Democrats all agree that we should have voter ID and that we should, have requirements for proof of citizenship. And it's an 80-20 issue, and yet the Democrats are resisting this. And so this is something, and some Republicans. So we've got about 40 or so Republican senators that have sponsored the bill, and I'm assuming we're going to have a vote here in the next couple of weeks. And my goal is to try to help convince the rest of the Republicans and hopefully some Democrats to come on board with this so we can get the 60 votes we need to make this a law. And I think it'd be a great step forward for the country.
Senator Dave McCormick is with us talking about the Save America Act, which just codifies voting for American citizens. Now, this applies to only federal elections? Or is it apply to all?
Yes, this applies to federal elections because, as a federal body, we can't, we don't pass laws that are state-specific laws. But you raise a really important constitutional question. Some of the people that are opposed to the Save America Act would say, no, the Constitution says that the states are responsible for conducting elections. That is true. But the Constitution also says that the federal government and the Congress in particular has a responsibility and the ability to impose broader guidelines. So what we're doing is making sure that the states are going to enforce the more fundamental law, which is that only American citizens can vote, and then they'll be able to conduct elections in each state how they deem fit. This is for federal elections, and it's a really important thing. And I'm a guy who I think can talk with some credibility, Bob, about the importance of every vote counting and being appropriate votes. I lost my first race in Pennsylvania statewide in the primary by 950 votes. 950. I won my second election in 2024 against Bob Casey by 15,000 votes of 7 million cast. So this matters. And we got two problems. Number one problem, we definitely have cheating that's taking place. People can debate how big a problem it is, but it's a problem for sure. Even the bigger problem is people are losing faith in our elections. The Save America Act will solve both problems.
It's interesting. Among the straw men they throw up is you'll nationalize elections when the same Democrat Party tried to do it completely in the Biden administration. It's like,
right.
how does it, seriously, how does, when you see a Chuck Schumer, I don't want to put you on the spot with specific names, but when you see idiots like that, do you just say to yourself, holy cow, it's got to take your breath away?
Well, let's just say I've been here a year. Let's just say that I've been introduced to hypocrisy on a level that even made me blush. And the Democrats on this have no credibility. But it is an interesting question. Why is it that when the majority of Democrats are for voter ID, as an example, more than 70%, that the Democratic Party, and in particular members of Congress in the House and the Senate, are resisting it? And I think there's a lot of straw men. The straw man you said is the constitutional question. I think there's a clear logic for why the federal government and the Congress should ensure a set of guidelines. But in addition to that, there's people say there's voter suppression and certain groups are disadvantaged and so forth. No, the legislation makes all sorts of accommodations that if you don't have proof of citizenship, there's ways that you can get additional verification. So it does require people to demonstrate that they're citizens, but it gives lots of flexibility in how the states can make sure that's the case. So this is one of those things where if you're a new guy to Congress, to the Senate, you scratch your head and say, most Americans agree with it. It seems like good democracy to be able to make sure that the people who are legal to vote actually are the people voting, and yet there's a lot of pushback on the left, and you got to believe that they see a real advantage in not having voter ID, and they see a real advantage in not having proof of citizenship because it allows non-citizens to vote.
Well, Senator McCormick, I see the Democrat Party, the Democrat leadership, the Democrat office holders, particularly on the federal level, but on the state level too, and local level, unfortunately, they're following the money that is the lifeblood of the Democrat Party, and it's all leftist money, like Neville Singham, like George Soros. Like foreign sources that shouldn't even be involved here. That's the only possible answer for their total flip-flop on immigration, on this kind of voting common sense, on gender-affirming care. You name the issue, and it's follow the money, in my view.
Yeah, no doubt about it. What's happened, and you can see it very clearly. I mean, I don't even think this is a debatable point. I think that the radical left part of the Democratic Party is the tail that's wagging the dog.
Yeah. And
whether it's the mayoral election in New York City with Mondani and this explicit embrace of socialism, whether it's Bernie Sanders, storming across the country endorsing some of these extreme leftist candidates. And so you've got this huge funding that's going into that part of the party. You've got the violence that's being perpetrated on our streets. These protests, these violent protests, are not accidents. They are many of the people there are being paid to go to places like Minneapolis and stir up trouble, stand in the way of law enforcement. So you have both the money and this influence of this radical left. That's really driving, I think, much of the behavior of the Democratic Party. How people are talking about it, how people are even now. We have this debate in Congress where the Democrats are not going to fund the Department of Homeland Security.
Yeah.
Bob, this is the dumbest thing. I just want to make sure your listeners understand what's going on here. the Department of Homeland Security has the Coast Guard, it has the Secret Service, it has the TSA people that help us in the airports, it has FEMA. This is the emergency response to think. Those are the people that get hurt when we don't fund DHS. It's not ICE or the Border Patrol. They're already funded. So what's going to happen now? We're going to shut down because of the extreme left wants to get an ounce, pound of flesh and show that they're standing up to Trump. We're going to shut down the funding, and the people you see at the airport, the Coast Guard, these people are in critical roles. It's not like they don't have to work. They're just going to not work and not be paid. They're going to work and not be paid, rather.
Yeah.
So that's what this extreme takes us to when they're arguing for reforms like body cams for all the members of ICE, which I agree with. They're looking for funding for additional training, which I agree with. All of that was in the appropriations. So it's literally political theater to appease the leftist part of their party.
And follow the money. Unbelievable. Well, keep us apprised on the shutdown as it approaches. And we wish you the best luck with your speech today and your pursuit of the Save America Act. It's important, and it's just common sense.
It's common sense, Bob. But I'm new to Washington, but so far there hasn't been a huge supply of common sense.
It's not so common. Senator Dave McCormick, thank you so much for being with us, and you're welcome anytime.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Proud to have you in Washington for us. We'll take this break. Bob Cordaro, WILK. We'll come back with our Veterans Tribute, the weather, and all of that. Our Veterans Tribute this hour and every hour, this day and every day, brought to you dutifully, loyally, proudly by our man John Basiliga, featuring today, because it's Thursday, Basiliga Hospitality. Well, that group includes 3 bar restaurants beyond parallel. The Old Brook Inn, 307 Springbrook Township. The Far Street Tavern, the reimagined neighborhood institution in the Great Trips Park section of West Scranton. The Queen City Tavern. Larry, Danielle, Cutie, and I were there last weekend. Loved it. That's downtown Oliphant. Fine dining. No, I'll be all over this. Atera 519, downtown Scranton. And Atera After Hours on Friday, Saturday nights. Stegmeyer Mansion. Old world take on incredible fine dining experience. Sergey's will be open tonight, the nightclub, and there will be no cover. Thomas Serdowski. He was 79. We lost him January 27th. He was from Hanover Township, living at the Gino Murley Center. Born in Kingston, he attended Kingston High School. He served us in the U.S. Army in the Vietnam War. As an only child, he was exempt from the war, but enlisted under the buddy system. He received a number of medals and commendations, including the Vietnam Service Medal and the Vietnam Campaign Medal. Tommy worked at Tobahan Army Depot and traveled the world working as a radar specialist. He then worked for Shot Glass Technologies, another amazing local employer, making glass for multiple products. He grew up as an athlete, with baseball being his favorite sport. He was an avid billiards player, a hustler, some may say. Hanging around at Johnny Mac's, the Q Room. His true love developed late in life when he found the game of golf, teaching himself. He's survived by his wife of 55 years, the former Diane Zola, his daughters, his grandchildren, and many other family members. Thomas Serdowski. John Franek. We lost him January 28th. He was 90. He was from Upper Lehigh. Born in Sandy Run, John served honorably in the United States Army, 1958 to 1960. Private first class in the Heavy Weapons Infantry. He'd been employed as a machine operator at the former General Foam Corporation in West Hazleton. Former member of the St. John Nepomucene Catholic Church, Freeland, and currently a member of the Immaculate Conception Parish at St. Anne's Church, Freeland. Also a member of Jetto Stars, the American Legion there, the Veterans of Foreign Wars there, and the Fear Nots Volunteer Fire Department. Preceding him in death, sadly, his wife Roseanne, who died in 1994, tragically, his daughter Roxanne Almonte. Surviving are a son, daughters, brothers, sisters, 5 grandchildren, and other family members. John Franek, our great veterans, this hour, brought to you by John Basiliga and Basiliga Hospitality Group. Storm Tracker 16 forecast from meteorologist Joe Snedeker, brought to you by the great gang up at Montage Mountain. Montage Mountain just means weather. Weather means Montage Mountain, and it's perfect for everything they do at Montage. Get up there. Today, clouds with a cold wind, chance of flurries, 34. Tonight, cloudy and cold down to 15. Friday, sunny skies, 35. Perfect for Montage. Saturday, partly sunny, high 40. Sunday, cloudy skies, high 40. President's Day, Monday, partly sunny, 45 degrees. The long weekend at Montage is upon us. Well, my Picardo Jewelers watch tells me it's time for the news because it's 10:01. And get to Picardo's. It is your Valentine's Day headquarters. You know it. I know it. Let's get it done. Great good morning, everyone. 10:08 a.m. on my Cordaro Jewelers watch, your Valentine's Day headquarters. This beautiful Thursday, February 12, 2026. This is the Bob Cordaro Show. I am he, and it's a big day to fight for America, defend our values. And with the help of our man, John Basiliga, and his great Basiliga Hospitality Group, by the way, 8 o'clock tonight, no cover, a Terra 519 having a, what do they call it? Galentine's party. Ladies, get there or be square. This is the Bob Cordaro Show. I am he. It's a big day to fight for America, defend our values, and with the help of our man, John Basiliga, to honor the brave who have made us and kept us free. People like veterans we've lost this year but celebrate today, thanks to John. Like John Franick, Upper Lehigh, Thomas Serdowski, Hanover Township, Robert Bob Kraft, Scranton, Edward Walsh, the Notch section of Scranton, David Bardo, Benton, and Andrew Vaquera, Dunmore and Scranton. So with history, our great founding fathers, and the incomparable Constitution of the United States of America as our guides, let us continue today's battle. Gaveling to order this meeting of the Club for Common Sense, promising you that our commitment to common sense will provide a sanctuary of sanity for all in a world that's gone mad. Our own news. Our own news. Somebody points this out. How many Americans detained by ICE in Minnesota were arrested for obstruction? Yeah, they were the Americans getting arrested. But they throw it in there with their lies. Newscasts as lies. The listener said the news break seems to suggest American citizens were wrongly or intentionally detained simply because they exist. Yep. Liars. On our own station. Lying in the news. Unbelievable. Well, we check in with Phil Kerpen, the president of American Commitment, every so often. And again, they play it straight, they play it down the middle, and they say, wait a minute, the Trump administration is doing something that could be really damaging. Phil Kerpen calls it the war on credit cards. So let's bring him on and talk about it. Phil, welcome back to the Bob Cordaro Show.
Hey, Bob, how are you?
I'm doing great, doing great. I've been hearing, you know, they seem like they're off the top of his head statements from Trump, which he makes many, most of which need to be discounted. But tell us what your concerns are.
Well, he endorsed Bernie Sanders, AOC, Elizabeth Warren favorite, the idea of putting a cap on the interest rate that credit cards can charge. And it's interesting because the original AOC Bernie version was an annual interest rate APR cap of 15%. And then you might remember Trump on the campaign trail floated this idea of maybe we should have a 10% cap. And then Bernie immediately changed his bill from 15 to 10, and then that was kind of the end of it. Trump never mentioned it again, and people were kind of like, well, I guess that was just one of those things he threw at the wall on the campaign trail. But then, I don't know, about 3-4 weeks ago, the president came out with it again, and he said, they better do it, and I want 10% by January 20th or else. And then, you know, January 20th came and went, and nothing really happened. But Bernie just reintroduced his bill. And it's not a 1 year like the president was saying. It's 6 years. And when you make something for 6 years, it's probably going to be permanent. Yeah. You're going to try to extend it. I mean, and, you know, this is one of these things. It's like any price control. It's like any price control. If you continue to get the product with the price control on, hey, it's great. You're getting it for less. You're paying less. It's cheaper. It's wonderful. But when you have a price control on, you're going to cause shortages. And in this particular case, if the government actually imposed a cap that said you can't have an annual interest rate that's higher than 10%, well, you know, you look at kind of the cost structure of that industry. They got about a 4% cost of capital. They've got about a 5% administrative and labor costs, and they've got about a 5% bad debt loss rate. And so you add up kind of the basic inputs in what it costs to run that business, and you're at about 15%. Now, if the government says you can't charge more than 10, the business doesn't work. And, I've seen estimates from the industry that everybody with a credit score under 740 would lose access. Their cards would get canceled. And so you're talking about something like 80 or 85% of people would not have credit cards anymore under that kind of regime. The people with credit scores above 740, yeah, they'd benefit from lower rates, I guess, although a lot of them are not carrying balances anyway. And what would you really have done except that now you got the majority of the American people who lose access to credit that they had before. It doesn't mean that they don't need it necessarily, and we're still digging out of the hole that Biden put us in. So you got a lot of household budgets that are still running, $100, $150 short at the end of most months, and if you don't have the credit card to bridge that, well, what do? You go back to floating a check in the mail and hope that payday comes before they deposit it. Otherwise, it bounces. I mean, they're just you leave people with only worse options. And I know what Bernie's answer is. Bernie and AOC, when they introduced the original bill a few years ago, back when it was 15, they said, you know what, if the private industry can't make lending work at this rate, then we'll replace it with a government program, and we'll do lending.
Yes.
We'll do consumer lending. We'll take it over, no problem. We'll run it through the post office. And the socialists, if their regulations destroy a private industry, they're kind of fine with that, right? I mean, they got their fallback plan. Conservatives, there's no fallback plan, and so I think. I don't know how serious the president was about this or what this was about, but I think it's dangerous to lend support to ideas like this. I will say, because sometimes the president can be, more clever even than we give him credit for. I have seen that some banks may start offering 10% cards as a new product to some qualified customers, and so that may be kind of what he was after. But imposing a cap as a regulatory matter, I think, would be very harmful.
Well, you point this out, Phil Carpin. I mean, I pay my credit card. I'm not wealthy by any stretch, but I pay my credit cards off in full every month. If I
so
have
you
to
get
pay,
zero interest, then you get a free loan essentially.
That's
you
how
get
I
to
look
bridge
at
the
it.
gap, and you don't pay anything.
But that would, and I've got a great credit score. So this wouldn't impact me. It would impact people that actually need the money.
Correct. I mean, this is of course, the irony of credit is, when you don't need it, everyone will give it to you.
Yeah.
When you need it, it's hard to get. I mean, this is why I tell people, make sure you got good access to credit, when you don't need it, so it's there when you do. But yeah, I mean, the people will be hardest hit. Let's say they don't do this, but they do, something not as draconian. They do 15% or something like that. You're not going to destroy credit for everyone, but you're going to destroy it for people who need it, right? It's lower income people, it's people without perfect credit scores. Those are the people where the math doesn't pencil out anymore because a credit card is an unsecured loan. It's not like an auto loan where they can repossess the car or a home loan where you can get foreclosed. There's nothing they can really do. If somebody doesn't pay, they can send a few nasty letters. Eventually, they just write it off. And so, you can't lend to people unless you're going to be able to make interest that covers the losses you have from the people who don't pay. That's how that business works. And by the way, they do have another source of revenue. They've got the swipe fees, and there's some discussion in Congress about trying to put regulations on those too. But the way this market's developed, this is kind of amazing. It's one of those things that no one ever would have thought of, but sort of the market innovates in interesting ways. The swipe fees, the 2 or 3% that they charge merchants for swiping the card, the credit card industry now actually has a negative margin on that, which is to say that they spend more on rewards programs than they collect in swipe fees, which is kind of amazing when you think about it. So, I mean, if you're really into this, you can find a card that gives 3% on this, 4% on that, a different card that gives 5% on that. I mean, if you're willing to carry 10 cards, you can get a big percent back on almost everything. And so, and that's how they compete. That's how they attract customers. So, they do get these swipe fees, but they're paying those right back out in rewards. The way they make the business overall work is that the interest that they make on people who do carry balances, that covers their overhead costs and their bad loans. And so that's how the industry's developed. I think we need to be very, very careful before government tries to regulate and mess with it because that almost always produces worse results.
Phil Kerpen's our guest. He's the head of American Commitment, and he's concerned that Donald Trump has joined forces with some of the looniest of the leftists, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, AOC, on this war on credit cards. And I got to tell you, I mean, Trump's a populist when it comes down to it. but the doesn't he see who he's aligned with, and that in itself should inform you that you're wrong?
Yeah, it's a pretty good hint, right? I mean, I saw reported that like he called Elizabeth Warren and she's the one who convinced him to do this, and it's kind of like, well, don't listen to her.
God.
It's yeah. I mean, those people are so seldom correct, and as I said, like they don't care if their regulations destroy a private industry because their answer is always just have the government do it, right? And if you're them, I mean, think about this. Look at what they did with student lending, all right? They basically nationalized all student lending. Government's the only student lender now, and what do? They can forgive them for a political advantage. It's a whole. I mean, think about what it would mean if consumer credit were handled the same way. If it were government programs and they could decide around election time that some people don't have to pay it back and it gets dumped on taxpayers. I mean, I can see why they might like that outcome, but I would not make common cause with them in any way because they don't have the same goals we do.
Yeah. What are the prospects? I mean, there's enough sensible people that understand what this would do to, and who, personally, do I care about the credit card industry? No. But I care about people who need credit cards.
Well, the other thing, Bob, if you think about it, if 80% of people lose their credit cards overnight, we're going to be in a recession. I mean, think of what it does to consumer spending. I mean, just, it's a, you could say, oh, it's great if people don't spend beyond their means, they don't use credit cards, and, that might be true to a certain extent, but a shock like that to the economy, all those people losing credit at once, just the sales of everything would plunge. So I think it would be a huge mistake. I don't think it's very likely, to be honest, but I'm scared that it was even floated and talked about. And I do worry when a left-wing idea starts to get support from a conservative president, you can pick off enough Republicans to maybe do something, and you worry about the possibility. I think that what's more likely to happen is some sort of price controls on those swipe fees, and I think that's more likely because it was already done to debit cards in the Dodd-Frank law. Dick Durbin put an amendment in, and debit rewards programs basically all disappeared. A lot of free checking accounts disappeared. I mean, I think the results were kind of terrible, but you got a lot of big merchants that think, hey, if instead of paying 2 or 3%, I only pay 0.5% or whatever it is, that's good for my bottom line. And so they've been pushing for this very hard, and they do have some bipartisan support. And so that, I think, in a way, I think the interest rate cap idea is to sort of distract from this idea of regulating the swipe fees. And as I said, those swipe fees come in, they pay them right out in rewards. So if you regulate those, you're going to kill rewards programs. And that, by the way, might put all the airlines in bankruptcy because they make more money on their rewards programs right now than they make actually flying airplanes. So I think that the risk of something happening that disrupts the credit card industry in a destructive way is maybe 30-40%. The risk of it being this 10% rate cap is much lower. I don't think that's a realistic proposal, but I do worry a little bit about it. I put the risk at maybe at 10%, something like that.
Well, Phil Kerpen, keep us apprised of this. Phil Kerpen, American Commitment. You can just look up American Commitment. You'll find out what they do. They're always in the forefront fighting for Americans and really everyday Americans and the country as a whole. We appreciate you coming on. Let us know as this develops.
Thanks, Bob. Have a good one.
All right. Phil Kerpen, American Commitment. We'll be back. The Stones, this date, 1966. They released their hit 19th Nervous Breakdown. And before that, the groundbreaking for the amazing Lincoln Memorial, Washington, D.C., 1914. How about that? Bob Cordaro back with you. And a couple of contrary opinions. My man Jeremy texted in, these are the profits of the credit card issuers. Now, I'm not saying it's an easy issue. It's hard to see through to it. I agree. Capital One Financial, $3.13 billion. Citigroup Credit Card Division, $1.9 billion. American Express, $3.28 billion. Excavator guy says they make enough money to have their APR lowered. Another brilliant take, Bob. Yes, we should all pay higher rates because the credit card companies refuse to go after people that commit fraud. There's that. Another, is there some place we can turn in establishments who charge a 3% fee on debit transactions? Believe me, I did 11 years for not talking, so you're not going to get that from me. Anyway, I'm so thankful that every credit card offer I get with my very good credit score is at least 19%. Understood. Now, if there was another side to this coin, Phil's looking at it as it is. Phil Kerpen and American Commitment. They're looking at it as it is. Credit cards are ubiquitous. They can be given to anybody. And they're available to anyone. But at a price. And I do feel like those of us with great credit scores who pay everything off and all that are paying for people who don't pay their bills. So the supply side may be where to go as opposed to the interest rate side, the fee side. Because the bottom line, unfortunately, is if there's not $3 billion to be made every year, American Express doesn't do it then. If there's not $1.9 billion to be made, Citigroup doesn't do it. If there's not $3.13 billion to be made, Capital One Financial doesn't do it, and there's no credit. It may be healthy for the long term of the economy to cut off poorer people from credit, but it would be calamitous in the near term. And that's the argument that Phil's making. So, yeah, my interest rates when if I don't pay are staggering. That's why I pay. It might be as high as 23%. I don't even look because I'm never going to let that happen. I'll never spend more money on the credit card than I can afford to pay at the end of the month. I'm not going to do it. So it's a dilemma. I remember the days, I didn't want to get into the days of yore with Phil, but I remember when Diners Club, that was virtually one of the first credit cards that you'd see around. And it was only good at restaurants, participating restaurants, I might add. Then, of course, Visa, MasterCard, American Express all became juggernauts. But they became juggernauts, and they provide credit for people who actually do need it at exorbitant interest rates. And a good amount of those people don't pay. Maybe there should be a credit card company for people with good credit. I don't know why they don't do that. Only good credit. They're probably anti-discriminatory laws. And you say, okay, if you don't have a credit score over X, you don't get a credit card from us. And we'll charge 10%. That's probably the only solution. All right. Ricardo Jewelers tells me, through their gorgeous watch that I'm wearing, that it's 10:31 and that it's time to get down there for Valentine's Day because it'll be too late soon. They'll be open late tonight. They'll be open Friday. They'll be open Saturday. We'll take a break and be back. It's the Bob Cordaro Show. our veterans tribute this hour and every hour, this day and every day, brought to you by friend to Northeast Pennsylvania, friend to America, John Basiliga and his great Basiliga Hospitality Group. Tonight, it's not too late. Terra 519 is hosting the premier, it's a fashion show. It's the Galentine's event of the year, starting at 8 o'clock this evening. Cutie will be there. Ladies, don't miss it. I don't get the whole Galentine's thing, but I guess we're not romantic enough. But check out all the properties: Old Brook, Far Street, Queen City, Stegmeyer Mansion, and of course, Sergei's, the nightclub. But a Terra 519 is the place to be tonight. Edward Walsh. We lost him January 23rd. He was from the Notch section of Scranton. Educated in North Scranton schools, he attended the great North Scranton Junior High School and later the amazing Scranton Technical School. Produced so many veterans. In 1952, he proudly enlisted in the United States Navy, serving on the USS Hades, stationed in the Mediterranean. Upon returning home, he built a long and steady career as a heavy-duty truck and auto mechanic, a trade he mastered through determination and natural talent. He worked in the field until his retirement. In addition to his wife, Caroline Fiore Walsh, he's survived by his sister, Helen Tarnowski of Oliphant, as well as nieces, nephews, and other family members. Edward Walsh. Robert Bob Kraft. We lost him at age 93, January 23rd. He was a devoted husband to his wife of 68 years, Marlene, and a loving father to his daughter, Christine. Born in Scranton, Bob remained a lifelong resident of the area for most of his years. Another graduate of the great Scranton Technical High School, he proudly served this country in the U.S. Army during the Korean War. Upon returning to Scranton, he began a distinguished 40-year career with Bell Telephone. He shared fond memories of his early days as a lineman climbing poles, eventually transitioning to installer and later a PBX installation technician. Beyond the work itself, Bob cherished the lifelong camaraderie of his colleagues, all their get-togethers, parties. Bob's life was defined by service, active member of the Telephone Pioneers of America. He also dedicated countless hours to the Special Olympics. After relocating to Cape Coral, Florida, he joined the German-American Social Club, where he served 2 terms as president. He worked on the annual Cape Coral Oktoberfest. When he wasn't serving others, Bob found peace at his cottage at Gouldsboro Lake. Survived by his beloved wife, Marlene, and his daughter, Christine, and her husband, Robert. He has 2 granddaughters as well. Bob Kraft. Our great veterans this hour, brought to you by John Basiliga and the great Basiliga Hospitality Group. Storm Tracker 16 forecast from meteorologist Joe Snedeker, brought to you by the great gang up at Montage Mountain Resorts. They're saying to you, this weather report is awesome for winter fun, and we're the place for winter fun. That's how the logic works. So when I think weather, I think, what's happening at Montage? When I think about Montage, I think, well, what's happening with the weather? Well, here it is. Today, clouds with a cold wind. Chance of flurries, high 34. 28 outside the studios right now. Tonight, cloudy and cold, low 15. Friday, sunny skies, 35 degrees. Saturday, partly sunny, 40. Sunday, cloudy skies, 40. Monday, President's Day, partly sunny. It'll be 45. Oh, perfect weekend to ski, snowboard. And for me, I'll be in the lodge. Well, we know we're not walking on sunshine up here. So that song can only mean we're being joined by Tina Morocco, Global Sales Advisor at Premier Sotheby's International in Naples, Florida. Tina, how are you today?
I'm fabulous, Bob. How are you?
I'm great. So you're in Estero today.
I am in Estero today. And it's funny. I was just thinking about Estero and things to do in Estero. And when we first moved down here, we went to Estero a lot. Dominic worked in Estero. And if you like the outdoors and things to do outside, we used to go kayaking out here in Estero Bay.
Wow.
And when you go kayaking out here, I mean, there's dolphins all around you, and there's manatees like flipping around. And you don't realize how big manatees are until you're on a little kayak right beside this elephant in the water. Yeah.
You know, I'm sliding on the ice here. So you don't know how amazing that sounds to be kayaking with fish and mammals of all kinds.
Exactly.
What kind of housing stock? Tell us where Estero is located relative to Fort Myers, Naples, all that.
Yeah, so Estero is kind of sandwiched in between Bonita Springs and Fort Myers. It's not a big area, but it borders the Estero Bay. If you're driving up, if you know Southwest Florida, if you're driving up US 41, you'll head through, if you're headed from Bonita to Estero and then the Fort Myers Airport, it's right there. Okay. You're going through it. Hertz Arena is a big thing here that you drive past. And Hertz Arena hosts the Florida Everblades, which is an ice hockey team that does really well, minor league ice hockey team. That's really a fun team to watch.
Are they the Everblades or Everglades?
Everblades.
I love it. I love it. I never thought about that.
An alligator.
I never thought. I always thought it was Everglades. How about that? What part of Estero? One of our listeners asked, what part of Estero are you focused on right now?
So I'm parked right now at the Coconut Point Mall in Estero. I just pulled over. I'm in between appointments, and I thought this would be a nice stop. But it's Coconut Point Mall is, an outdoor mall, tons of restaurants like Tommy Bahama, lots of outdoor activities out here. But also above the mall, there's residences. So you can live above these shops and restaurants, and it's kind of like a little village here. So that's really popular. And Estero's really growing. Off of Corkscrew Road, there's tons of new construction communities, and a lot of these are, resort-style communities. They have tons of amenities, resort-style pool, restaurants, tennis and pickleball, that type of thing. So you can really get a good deal here in Estero. Prices are a little bit more moderate than Naples, but it's a nice location, really close to the airport. You're only about 10 minutes away from the airport. Miramar shops and outlets are right around the corner, and lots to do, and you're close to everything. I love Estero because, you can be in Naples in a couple of minutes, you can be in Bonita, and it's a happening place.
What's that place called? Coconut Point Mall?
Coconut Point Mall. It's an outdoor mall, not a traditional mall.
Love the sound because I'd love to live in one of those places where I need a balcony. I got to have outdoor space so I can smoke cigars. But you can also walk around doing it. But that's another. All right, so I'd love to live in a place like this. I walk to your neighborhood. It's a different kind of upscale neighborhood.
It is. It's very social, and people around here. There's so many restaurants, so you'd never get tired of one or two. I mean, there's probably 20 or 30 of them in this Coconut Point complex. But it's a lot of fun, and the prices here, like I said, are pretty moderate compared to Naples and even Bonita Springs. So check it out.
My friend Mark Mayer, he's stuck in Lower Manhattan. And he's saying, "Oh, it's an amazing place." He's asking about the West Bay Club. He's asking me 20 questions for the West Bay Club.
I I love the West Bay Club. We were members there for a summer.
Oh, great.
And yeah, it's a beautiful golf course, beautiful community.
So
And they're
much
actually
to do.
building on the West Bay Club a new high-rise tower that overlooks the bay, which,
Wow.
I mean, a high-rise luxury tower, gorgeous views.
Oh, Estero, thank you for bringing this to our attention. Just another
Yeah,
place for us to
absolutely.
look and to check in with Tina Morocco in Southwest Florida. Absolutely love it,
Well,
Tina.
thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure thing. Yep.
All right.
I'll talk to you soon, Bob.
You
Thanks.
have a great long weekend in the warmth.
You too.
All
All right.
right.
Take care.
Tina
Bye.
Morocco. You can reach her at tinamorocco.com, MURACCO, or you could email her at muraccotina@gmail.com, or just look on the web, Premier Sotheby's International in Naples, and you'll find her. We'll be back. Yes. Murph says this date, 1972, they released their hit, Roundabout. Great song. Can't believe it's that long ago. Wow. Somebody said, I've always thought the south side of Scranton, Cedar, Pittston Avenue, etc., could be redesigned to have vast storefronts and apartments above, limit the height to 3 stories, reclaim the riverfront, sort of like Pittston, but much bigger. Yeah, that's a great idea. We'll have to go to one of these credit card companies and get the money. And let's go quickly to Larry from Plymouth. He's weighing in on the Super Bowl. How are you, Larry?
Bob, not good.
Okay.
Not good. Bob, how would you like to be without water for 4 days?
Oh, geez. Sorry to hear that.
I get last Saturday, I get up no water. So I call up the water company. They send a guy. He goes out there, turns my valve. He says, no, it's okay. He says, your water pipes are froze. You got to get a plumber. I get a plumber, Bob. Turns out it's the water company's pipes that are froze.
Ah.
Now I have a claim in to try to recover my money. What a bunch of creeps.
Well, that's not fun. You're right. We had water problems
try
this
it, Bob.
winter.
I had to go down to the creek and wash my clothes, beat them on the rocks.
Now that I would, I wish somebody took a video of that. You could make all your money back for all your utilities if you had that.
But Bob, what I have to say is, you know that guy that called you a couple weeks ago and he said, "Do you order Rocky Marciano, Muhammad Ali, and Donald Trump of radio?"
Yeah.
Bob, that guy was absolutely right. Let me tell you, Bob. You are the only person on this station, the only one on this station that says that Bad Bunny is a creep. And he is a creep. Everybody's saying, oh, he didn't do nothing wrong. So am I missing something?
He grabbed his privates about 20 times. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense.
I mean, and another guy I love who talked to you the other day, Luciano. I love that guy.
He's great.
He's right about everything. I'll tell you what. But this stinks. I mean, this stinks what's going on. And that Roger Goodell. Oh, my God. There's a devil worshiper, Bob.
He's a disaster.
Bob,
Absolute
you should see there's a comedian, Bill Burr. I don't know if you ever saw him.
Yes.
Years ago, when there was trouble, some football player beat up his girlfriend, and Roger Goodell comes out, and Bill Burr does it. He says, I'm going to do Roger Goodell, we got to get it right speech. Him and Norm Macdonald were two of the funniest people I ever saw in my life.
I play him once in a while.
Oh, the Hitler speech, Bob. Norm Macdonald, you got to do the one when he talks to Bob Euchre. He used to go in a booth with him, and he said he went up in a booth, and Bob Euchre says to him, he says, hey, you see that guy down there? That's John Fogerty, country singer. And he says, at seventh inning, I'll have him come up here and sing for you. He says, no, don't do that. And he says, Bob Euchre says, what's the matter? Don't you even know who he is? He says, yeah, he does Creedence and all that stuff. And then Bob Euchre says, yeah, he does all, well, I won't say the word he says, but he does all that crap.
Well, Larry, is the water restored? I got to know that before you
yes,
leave.
it is, Bob. And I got they have a steam machine. If you ever have problems, it's a steam machine. They put a thing down inside the pipe, and it gets rid of the ice. But there was only one person around that did it, and that was from Whitehaven. I had to call him.
I'll have to remember that.
But he's very, very good. Extreme home services.
Okay.
So, but yeah, that's my thing for today, Bob. But I tell you, Bob, I got to say it. You know, see, that's the one thing wrong, Bob. There's no morals in this country anymore. I might be an atheist, Bob, but I got morals. I don't hurt nobody, don't do anything. And I'm on the line anyway. I don't know what the hell's going on. I'm a confused person, you know. but Bob, you are number uno.
All right, man. Thank you, Larry. I'll always take the compliment. Thank you, my friend.
You take it easy, Bob.
And now we go to another theme song, because guess who we have? We got Angelo from Madisonville.
Hey, Bargiano.
We only got about a minute, my man, but because I got a guest coming on, so I had to get you in before the news.
Okay, real quick here. St. Catherine's Church is having a Mardi Gras party tomorrow night from 6 to 9, and the ticket is $30. You got the Browns going to play, Christian and Jim Jr. and Diana. Great music, great food, and the great pastor that we have Father Maldani.
Oh,
He's
the
the
best.
greatest, man. There's not one time that he didn't have a great homily.
Yeah.
He's an inspiration to everybody that walks in that door, buddy. Everybody.
And you have
God bless you.
always a pleasure. Well, my Picardo Jeweler watch tells me we're approaching 11 o'clock, which is time for the news. So let's do that. Bang on the dot. And we'll be back. We've got a special guest we're going to talk to, and we'll return. Great good morning, everyone. My Cordaro Jewelers watch, that's your Valentine's headquarters. Says it's 11:07 a.m. this Thursday, February 12, the year of our Lord, 2026. Like Bob Kraft of Scranton, Edward Walsh, North Scranton, John Franick, Upper Lehigh. This meeting of the Club for Common Sense, promising you that our commitment to common sense will provide a sanctuary of sanity for all of you. And AP and ABC, the most horrible news sources on the planet, they don't point out that the mass killer in, by the way, as many of these mass killers is transgender and confused. So that's another mass killing by another transgender, and it doesn't get mentioned in the news. Just ignore it. We don't know what do you know we still do not have. Remember the transgender who killed those kids, killed at least four people in Nashville area? Never mentioned that she or he was transgender, and never mentioned the manifesto. Never got disclosed. Yeah, that's what happens. Somebody texted in, is Monsignor Muldowney from the Scranton Diocese? Yes, Cabinet Guy. That's the one. St. Catherine's up in Moscow. You'll find it. Somebody texted, by the way, Pastor Mitch checks in. He says, God bless you, Sir Bob. He always does, Pastor Mitch. He says, LTS, bro, keep your eyes on Jesus. Too many distractions. Amen. Amen. Somebody, Biden Greenridge banner, stolen valor. Yes, we're going to do that. We've got an update. But somebody takes it, Nancy loved the station, but listening for years and will continue to do so. But over the past 15 years, the AP has lost all credibility whatsoever. Yes, completely. Absolutely completely. I don't know. The mental illness that accompanies transgenderism, it's being ignored. It's being overlooked. Well, if we've taken the stigma away from mental illness, well, let's admit that it's mental illness. And it's got to be treated properly with compassion. Amazing. Well, we've got to get back on track here because you remember we had Brian Kincaid, an attorney who wrote the amazing book, Murder in Old Forge. He is going to be at Wilkes-Barre Barnes & Noble's Saturday, Valentine's Day, 1 to 4 o'clock. And then on Sunday, he's going to be at the Historical Society in Scranton, right at the University of Scranton, right as you enter, from 2 to 4. Ernie Priate will be there, and a number of the people who have been involved. And he is with us now. Brian, welcome back to the Bob Cordaro Show. How are you?
Hey, Bob. Good to be back. Very, very nice to have me back here.
Well, it's great that you're coming back to this area with this book that still has relevance, in my view. A chilling tale. Let us recount that for the audience.
Well, you go to Old Forge, Pennsylvania. You go to Old Forge on July 26, 1981. About 4 p.m., the Ziemba children, 4-year-old Christopher, 8-year-old Cheryl, ask their mom to go out and play in their backyard, right off of Drake's Lane in Old Forge. And they disappear off the face of the earth. 2 hours later, you begin to have family searching. 3 hours later, the police are searching, and the volunteer fire departments, the volunteer hoses in Old Forge are searching. By 10 o'clock at night, and it's on Sunday, July 26th, 1981, rainy, misty night. You have 500 people, and it talks about the spirit of Old Forge then and now, out searching for someone's children. And people are searching hard, and they're looking, and they're up all night searching. They find nothing. And people are terrified. They call off the search, going to start again at 7 in the morning. A husband and wife who had been searching all night, Frank and Diane Lasota, decide to go out and take a look because they can't sleep and they're not going to wait for 7 o'clock. They're going to look in the neighborhood. And they climb up on a little cullen bank off of Hard Street in Old Forge called Quarry Slope. Most of it's gone now to redevelopment. And they find up there blood-covered sandals that belonged to Cheryl DeZiemba and a blood-covered flip-flop that belonged to Christopher. Now authorities know something happened to these children. Yeah. So now the state police become involved. The district attorney's office, Ernie Priate was DA at the time, come on down, and they're searching that whole Monday. The mom is Diane Ziemba, who, by the way, passed away this past September, is distraught, so distraught, she's hospitalized. And they find nothing the remaining Monday, and they know something happened, and they know that there's a killer. And the next day, 5 volunteer firemen go up to the strip mining pits above Old Forge, Stanley Zatovitz, Frank Janelle, who was only 17, Mike Delvanco, Rich Besicon, Ed Olzak, and they begin checking the strip mining pits. And Frank Janelle, the 17-year-old junior firefighter, looks over the second strip mining pit they check, and they find the bodies of these Zamba children. Oh, my gosh. And it turns out they're slain with shotgun. There was a press conference. Ernie Priate and Major Jordan of the Pennsylvania State Police held a press conference. And people are just bowled over by the horror of it. Yeah. And when they found those bodies, they found pieces of carpet. And the key piece of evidence in the case, you're talking about 1981. You don't have ring cameras on everybody's houses.
No DNA. Yeah.
No DNA. You only have blood antigen evidence. That's the best you're going to get. And they have a piece of carpet cut out in the shape of a car's dashboard. They bring it to the Naples Auto Yard with a template, and they say, what kind of car this is going to fit? And it's a 71 Plymouth Cricket. And there it is sitting in the Elizio driveway, the next-door neighbors to the Ziembas. Only one in the area. And it's got glue marks on the dashboard because it had been glued to a dashboard. Yeah. And that's how they start developing the case against Joey Elizio, who's 15 years old at the time.
A big kid, but 15 nevertheless.
15. He was actually, the brother was bigger. Joey was fairly skinny, but he was savvy. He was driving a car at age 15, even though he wasn't supposed to. He had actually built a log cabin on his dad's property and ran a wire up to the primary line on the pole and got electricity in it. How he did that without electrocuting himself is amazing in and of itself. But he was experienced, and he was not your typical 15-year-old in a lot of senses. But evidence started to trail back to him. Now, I think it's important when we talk about this case. Other times I've been on, people were texting you, still thinking that he's innocent, number one. And number two is that it might have been some sort of accident. Somebody texted, I walked home with him, he couldn't have done it. Now, I think everybody out there listening, it's important to remember, he testified in court, not in 1981 when he was 15 when this first happened, not in 1982 when he was 16 when he was tried, but when he was 54 years old in 2019. So 2019 we have 81 the crime happens, 82 the trial. He maintains his right to remain silent. We get to 2019, there is a resentencing hearing because he was a juvenile at the time of the crime, and life imprisonment without parole was deemed unconstitutional by the United States Supreme Court. And he testified on December 18th, 2019. I was in the courtroom because I testified at that hearing as well. And he testified that he killed them. He admitted to it. So
that's something not a lot of people know, Brian.
So he testified to it. I'm looking at the testimony right in my book. And even if you take his word that the first killing was accidental, his words are clear that the second killing was on purpose. It was premeditated. It was to get rid of a witness. So, everybody listening out there, he didn't say this at age 15, the night they arrested him on July 29th, 1981. He had come close to a confession. An attorney showed up, the public defender had showed up at the police barracks and put a stop to the interrogation, so right to counsel. He didn't testify in 1982 at trial, and he didn't testify when they had the sentencing hearing because he was originally sentenced to death in 1982. But then in 2019 at resentencing hearing, he testified, and he admitted to it. So everybody out there listening, he admitted to it, not as a 15-year-old in 81, not as a 16-year-old in 82 at the time of trial. At 54 years old, he was there in Judge Giroulo's courtroom, and he admitted to it under oath.
Amazing.
So I think that takes any of that away.
Yeah.
And you could debate whether the first murder was accidental or not. But the second one was definitely intentional.
Brian Kincaid is our guest. He's the author of Murder in Old Forge. He'll be appearing at Wilkes-Barre Barnes & Noble Valentine's Day this Saturday, 1 to 4 o'clock. He'll also be at the Lackawanna County Historical Society in Scranton, 2 to 4 on Sunday. Ernie Priet will be along with him, and they'll have an opportunity for a robust discussion about all that. We're going to take a break on the Bob Cordaro Show. We'll come back with Brian, talk about not only those appearances, but the aftermath of all of this horrendous murder. When we're watching the Guthrie thing, it's got to give you flashbacks. It really does. We'll take a break and be back. Brian Kincaid is our guest. Steelers Wheel. Murph tells us this date, 1973. They released their hit Stuck in the Middle with You. And 1999 this date. The Senate voted to acquit President Bill Clinton of impeachment charges of perjury and obstruction of justice. They got it about right. What was it, 50-50 vote? That was Chief Justice William Rehnquist, by the way. Reviled at the University of Pennsylvania Law School when I was there. Oh, you'd bring up his name. Oh, Rehnquist. He was outstanding. Anyway, about the right result. There should have been something. I don't think they had to go through the impeachment. We elected, the country elected Bill Clinton knowing he was a philandering liar. I didn't see the point at the time. I certainly don't see it now, especially since it's become weaponized, and especially if somehow, tragically, the Republicans lose the House, he'll be impeached again. The sickos in the Democrat Party will do that. In any event, we're talking to Brian Kincaid. He is the author of Murder in Old Forge. He'll be at Wilkes-Barre Barnes & Noble to discuss his book this Saturday, 1 to 4 o'clock. And then Sunday at the Lackawanna County Historical Society, the Great Caitlin House in Scranton, right on the campus of the University of Scranton, 2 to 4 p.m. Ernie Priate, the prosecuting attorney, will be there with him. So he serves this long sentence. He goes through all his appeals, Brian Kincaid, and he's still in prison, and frankly should be. But what interactions did you have with this young man?
Well, my interaction came in 1993. We've spoke before. As a law student, young attorney, I got interested in the case. A fellow who went to law school with me from Jenkins Township, Bob Zigman, gave me the idea for this. Put me on this case. And so then starting 1989, 1990, I started seriously working on the case, and that meant going up to Old Forge, looking up people, looking up news articles at the University of Scranton library.
How are you received in Old Forge? It seems like there'd be something that a tight-knit community, at least at that time, a tight-knit community like that would resent.
You know, it was funny because I had wrote to the Old Forge hose. I didn't have addresses for those members of the Old Forge Fire Department, Frank Janelle, Stanley Zatovitz, Rich Besicon, Mike Nelvanko, Ed Ozak. I had an address for the Old Forge hose, so I wrote there, and they got a hold of me right away.
Yeah.
And, Stanley Zatovitz was a great help because he introduced me to a lot of people in Old Forge, a lot of witnesses. I mean, some didn't want their names mentioned, some did. But by and large, either, my requests were ignored, they didn't contact me, or people contacted me and talked about it. There was a woman down the street from the Elizios, from the murder scene, who had her husband was a witness, and I was over at her house. She had moved to another part of Old Forge, and left me with a lot of insights on what was going on in the neighborhood. There were quite a few people, and then of course the book went on hiatus. I stopped writing it 1998. You and I discussed it before. I ran for election in New Jersey, and I was the dog that caught the car. I won. I wasn't supposed to win.
Yeah.
And now what do you do with being an attorney full time on top of it? So the book went by the wayside, and for many, many years it just sat there. But going back to Joey Elizio, he found out that I was working on the book, and it got back to him in prison. And somehow, really in the pre-internet dates of 1993, he found my home address and sent me basically a death threat letter.
Oh, geez.
And it's interesting because before that letter, this book would have been written, and this is how it goes. May 1993, I get to my home a letter from him from prison talking about the movie Cape Fear, essentially threatening me. And that's not why I stopped writing the book in 98. But, I get that letter. So now we flash forward to 2019, and I hadn't looked at most of the material for nearly 20 years. I almost threw out all the material, said, oh, that was a good idea, but you're never going to write a book. And I had maybe 3/4 of a manuscript done by that point, and it just sat there for 20 years. And then on a Saturday in December of 2019, Stanley Zatovitz called me, said, do you know he's up for a resentencing hearing? Do you still have that letter? And I looked for the letter, found it. My secretary that Monday morning, we faxed it up to Lackawanna County DA. Mark Powell, who's now a common pleas court judge, was the district attorney. And we faxed it up there with a letter from me explaining who I was. And that night they had a subpoena for me. And I ended up testifying against Joseph Elizio at the resentencing hearing before Judge Cerullo as December 18th, 2019. Which was interesting.
Brian, our sort of the last question, because we're out of time. Brian Kincaid is the author of Murder in Old Forge, a riveting account of the Ziemba murders by Joe Eleuthio. Is he out of appeals? Is it over legally?
Well, it's never really over legally. He's filed pro se on his own. I think he filed to the Federal District Court and to the Third Circuit after Pennsylvania Superior Court upheld what Judge Cerullo did was he sentenced him to basically 60 years to life without parole. So he's not eligible until 2041 when he's 75. Mm-hmm. Appealed it to the Superior Court of Pennsylvania. Appeal was denied. Supreme Court of Pennsylvania upheld the resentencing. Then he appealed to the Federal District Court, and then he appealed to the Third Circuit Court of Appeals on his own. So it just goes on. So it continues to go on.
He's how old now, Brian?
So, okay, if he was 15 in 81, I see my math. All right, well, he was 54 in 2019, so we add 7 years, so he's 61 now.
Wow. So
he'll be 75 when he's eligible for parole.
Amazing. These saga and the Ziemba kids are forever children, forever infants, frankly, in death.
Really, everybody's children, everybody who cares. They're, even though it's somebody else's children from long ago, if you have a heart for caring, you care about what happened to these kids, that they're remembered, and that the criminal stays behind bars. And I'd be remiss to say, Ernie's going to be there on Sunday. I think Tom Nolan is going to be there, who was Judge Walsh's law clerk back at the time
the late great
of the
Judge
trial.
Walsh,
Yeah, I went to lunch with Tom a few weeks ago. Some of the firefighters may be there, and a few of the other witnesses. So it'll be an interesting event, to say the least.
Yeah. Once again, 1 to 4 at Barnes & Noble Wilkes-Barre Saturday, 2 to 4 at the Lackawanna County Historical Society, the Caitlin House, on the campus of the University of Scranton on Sunday. The book is Murder in Old Forge. The author is Brian Kincaid. Thank you so much, Brian. We appreciate it. And maybe we'll get to follow up on this again. Who knows, right?
All right. Thank you, Bob. Appreciate it. Thank you for your help.
All right. We'll take a break. Bob Cordaro, WILK. We'll be back with our Veterans Tribute after this. Our Veterans Tribute this hour and every hour, this day and every day, proudly brought to you by our friend John Basiliga and his great companies, today featuring the Basiliga Hospitality Group. The Old Brook Inn, 307 Springbrook Township, the Far Street Tavern, the reimagined neighborhood institution in the Trips Park section of Scranton, the Queen City Tavern. Cutie, myself, Larry, and Danielle loved it last Saturday. A Terra 519, well, that amazing restaurant is hosting at 8 o'clock tonight the Galentine's event. Get there or be square. David Bardo, Army veteran who ran the Central Park Hotel. He passed away at age 78, January 24th. Born in Bloomsburg, graduated from Benton High School in 1966, and immediately enlisted in the military, where he proudly served all of us in the United States Army for 13 years. During that time, he served 3 tours of duty in Vietnam as an infantryman with the 101st Airborne. Returning from his military service, David became an entrepreneur, most recently running the Central Park Hotel with his wife, Rose. He served 48 years as a volunteer firefighter with Benton, North Mountain, and Unityville. He was a member of the East Greenwood Hunting Cabin, Racks Unlimited, and the Orangeville Sportsman Club. Amazing legacy. David Bardo. Andrew Vicara. We lost him January 26th. He was 88. Resident of the Scranton area, born in Dunmore. Above all else, his family says Andy was a devoted Catholic, a deeply loving husband. He shared an extraordinary 67 years of marriage with his wife, Ruth, his true sweetheart, as he referred to her with affection. Together, they built a life rooted in faith, devotion, and enduring love, proudly celebrating their anniversary the Friday before he passed. Andy was a loving and devoted father to his daughters. He then continued that service to country through the National Guard. Talented gardener, wonderful cook, beloved homemade ravioli, a skilled handyman, a loyal friend, a steady and comforted presence, and a man whose kindness and generosity touched everyone he met. Andrew Vicara. Our great veterans this hour brought to you by John Basiliga and Basiliga Hospitality. Well, that sounder can only mean one thing. The Storm Tracker 16 forecast from meteorologist Joe Snedeker. Well, brought to you by our friends at Montage Mountain Resort. This is prime Montage weather. Absolutely prime as we head into President's Day weekend. Today, clouds with a cold wind. Chance of flurries, 34. Tonight, cloudy and cold, 15. Friday, sunny skies, 35. Saturday, partly sunny, 40. Sunday, cloudy skies, 40. Monday, President's Day, partly sunny, 45 degrees. And I'll be there sometime over the weekend. I can't resist. I love the lodge. I don't ski. I can't ski. I got my knees shot. Can't snowboard. But it is the place for winter activities. You go up that mountain, and you're just transported. You think you're in New Hampshire or Vermont or something. Montage Mountain Resort is bringing you your weather. Caroline Levitt said it right. My gosh, these are insane arguments. We're having these discussions that illegal aliens get to stay here. I don't get it. 70% have criminal records. Those are the statistics. Like it or not. But see, they'll fudge these statistics, and this is our horrible news industry. They'll fudge these statistics. Unreal. They'll say Americans are being arrested. Yeah, for obstructing police operations. My gosh. It's absolutely unreal. Back to an older subject. We talk about that mass murder in Canada. Exceedingly rare there. Somebody says, I don't know why the transgender killer is getting more attention than people who just kill. Well, he killed a ton of people and then injured like 20-some more. You don't think that should get attention? The listener continues, literally, there's killers everywhere, but let's focus on the transgender ones. Why? They're committing mass murder. I don't know what else to tell you if you don't see that. On the same subject, somebody texts in, 98% of adult transgender people are perfectly functioning human beings. I don't know why we just can't let people be who they want to be. I know 3 adult and transgender people. They're respected, hold down great professional, decent jobs, great personalities, and they don't harm anybody. I'm not defending what happens before 18 years old. That's disgusting and should never happen. But for adults, what's the big deal? I agree with you. Again, you got to listen to the show. But it's a sickness. And it's got to be handled properly. It's mental illness. Gender dysphoria, there's a name for it. And pretending it's not doesn't allow these people to thrive. The condition's undeniable. I mean, and they deserve, especially as kids, they deserve compassion, not cutting. They deserve love, understanding, all the understanding you can. Let them work their way through it. Let them make their decisions as adults. We agree 100% on that. But when it's denied that a murderer was transgender, when it's covered up, I don't get it. You got to deal in reality. You got to deal in truth. You got to deal in fact. But your point is exactly correct. Nobody, no matter what their chosen lifestyle, if it doesn't harm anyone, should not be bothered. Period. So, yeah, adult transgender, no issue. Live your life, please. Enjoy your life, please. By the way, somebody says the Brown Initiative, which Angela mentioned as entertainment at St. Catherine's, is a fabulous group and family of young people led by Christian Brown and his family. They sing at St. Catherine's all the time. Absolutely great young people. Well, that's fantastic. That's for the Mardi Gras tomorrow night. Mother Teresa. We've got to get to it for today. February 12th. Peace begins with a smile. I will never understand all the good that a simple smile can accomplish. Amen, Mother Teresa, Saint Teresa. Thank you, Mary Regina. Let's take our break. We'll be back. Love this song. Hadn't heard it in a long time. Well, great find there, Murph. This date, 1994, the Cranberries moved into the top 10 charts at number 7 with their hit, Linger. Biden, no. Biden banner, day 59. Truth held hostage. Stolen valor. The Green Ridge Neighborhood Association has a banner for Joe Biden under Hometown Hero. He was neither a hero nor did he serve in the military. Take the banner down. You can put anything up you want to tribute Joe Biden if you're that foolish, but don't debase our veterans. Truth held hostage, day 59, the Biden banner. Well, that disgrace continues. We're going to finish with Badfinger. My old producer and the afternoon producer, Jake, his dad loves Badfinger like I do. Day after day, Murph says this date, 1972, they moved into the top 10 charts at number 10 with their great hit, Day After Day. And day after day, the Biden banner stands. A disgrace to the area. Unreal. Oh, Lord. Somebody says, the AP also told us that Biden was sharp as a tack. How much credibility could they have? Zero. Zero. That's how bad our news is. Hey, guys, you know it's great being with you. Don't forget, if you want to find out about Florida, I just found out about Estero from Tina Morocco. Check her out at Sotheby's International, Naples, or MoroccoTina@gmail.com, MURACCO, or TinaMorocco.com. She's got her own website, her own deal. Of course, I've got to tell you, as the commercials continue, that it's not too late, guys, to get the Picardos and get the perfect gift. It's not too late. Spruce Street, Jefferson Avenue. You can find them. You'll love it. I'm telling you. If I can afford to be there, you can. I can pretty much promise you that. Well, another day down. I'm scared. It's Friday already for me. Monday will be off because of the President's Day. So I'll miss you then. But God willing, I'll be with you tomorrow morning at 9 to go on attack again against insanity. That's our job. But for now, we've got to gavel to a close this meeting of the Club for Common Sense. Picardo's and their beautiful watch say it's noon.